What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Two Brothers, Same Mother. Of course, it's Sheik. We got AJ as well joining you. And, this is the time where you start getting a little bit of that football itch. It's about to hit 4th of July. You know camps are about to start. You know the season isn't that far away. And I don't know how you feel, but I'm actually starting to get that. You know what I mean? It's been a bit since we've had some football. And I'm kind of ready.
Yeah, I mean, not like the Sixers and the Phillies aren't nudging us
Yeah,
the fuck
I
along,
was trying
right?
to avoid all that, at least for like 3 minutes. You know?
just nudging us along, just like let's like now it's like, all right, we really need to get this taste out of our mouths. Like, come on, something.
Right. I mean, listen, it's not like the Phillies could score 12 runs and still lose 13-12 and blow 3 leads all in the same game.
Right. When I first saw the score, I thought like my ticker was wrong, and I thought it was like it was showing the old score of a Washington Eagles game. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
and the Sixers, all the people that are saying, you want to blame Ben Simmons, but look at this and look at that. Stop. We know what we saw. It's not about, it was a team loss, but stop making excuses for Ben Simmons. Stop it.
Yeah.
Please stop it. Y'all ain't do that for McNabb. Y'all ain't do that for Eric Lindros. Y'all ain't do that for Andre Iguodala. Y'all ain't do that for none of these athletes 10 years ago. And I feel like if you criticize an athlete, you have to apologize for it. Stop it, man. Stop it with that stuff. And not to go off a tangent, why I wanted to avoid that. The people in that mainstream Philly media who were coming out trying to say everybody else was the problem but Ben Simmons, and that we need to build around Ben Simmons and get rid of people like Joel Embiid because they're holding them back. Those were real takes after watching that game. Y'all should be ashamed of yourself because you know what you're doing. You know you don't need that.
Joe Giglio. No, go fuck, who cares? I don't care.
Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves because
he's an ass clown anyway. He doesn't need to be on the
floor. Every show seems to be doing that now. And it's a shame because I grew up in media. I not media PA, but I grew up learning about media and broadcasting and journalism, and you're supposed to have a certain kind of integrity. And, we got to the point where guys like John Ritchie and Ike Reese, who didn't study that, sound more like journalists than the guys who spent their whole life studying the craft. And that's a shame. But we're going to get to that. I actually have a question about journalism coming up. So, we'll get to that. First things first, we'll start with something positive. Let's get something positive, man. The Eagles seem to be ramping up their interest in bringing in a veteran second quarter cornerback, a guy that you have brought up several times, one Steven Nelson. And supposedly the thing that seems to crop up that's holding them back is they don't want to pay $3 million for 1 year for a guy who's having trouble finding work. And that might possibly be on the downside of their career. So I ask you, A, is that smart? And B, what do you think is the chances of Steven Nelson being in an Eagles uniform before opening day?
50-50 on the opening day thing. And I know that's a cop out, but it's just the truth. And I don't think he's not on a team because he's on the downside of his career. I think he's not on a team because people don't have the money like that because of everything going on and their things. And he's trying to play the market like it's like they do have a free agency money, if that makes sense. You understand what I'm saying? Like every time I've heard something about him from different media outlets, even when sometimes I'll listen to NFL overall on Sirius, and that seems to be the thing. Like that's the thing that he's just it's about money it's about money, and that's why he's not on a team.
Yeah, I mean, any other year, $3 million 1 year for a guy of that caliber who might even be a number one corner on some teams. They would be bad teams, but wouldn't be a big deal. But this is the first time, I think in my lifetime, that the salary, since they've had a salary cap, where the salary cap actually shrank. As far as I know, I didn't do any research on that, but I don't remember hearing.
They weren't able to sell their $14 canned beers. So
right, and you know what, man? Those $14 canned beers taste different, just like those $5 hot dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I honestly think it's a little higher. I think that there's a 75% chance that he will be on the starting roster. but I think there's a 20% chance he'll be in training camp, if you follow what I'm saying. He's a veteran.
Right, I got
You
you.
know.
I'm actually shocked that Zach Ertz is still on this team.
I'm not. Not because I think he should be here. Speaking of Zach, Zach Ertz, and there's a few people that have come up in possible trades. I think it's more so. I think right now, it's just like me or you or any other human. When you're on a budget, right, you're more likely to see what you can make in your cabinets before you decide to order out. And I think that's what teams are doing. They're trying to see they have the ingredients to make this recipe of a winning team,
right,
before they try to go and get something else. So I could see Zach Ertz being traded in training camp. Like, hey, we go through our training camp, we went through one preseason game, and our tight ends are awful.
right. Or injury happens or something.
Right. That Tim Tebow experiment don't work in Jacksonville, or like whatever it may be. Like, then okay, all right, we'll trade for him. And I think at this point, Howie would be delighted to get like a third rounder for him, because right now you're probably getting a fifth or a sixth.
Yeah, but you free up $8 million, so kind of.
There's two other people that came up in trade talks. So I want to ask you your opinion on both as far as them being traded and just the percentage. And that is Brandon Graham and Andre Dillard. Those are the two people that I'm seeing in multiple articles and multiple chatter that keep on coming up in trade talks. So what are your thoughts on both of them?
Timing. So, and what I mean by that is I don't see Brandon Graham getting traded. That's probably a negative. That's probably a negative percentage of that happening. And not because Brandon's like this great lovable eagle, blah 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 blah. It's you don't have
Which
no depth there. He is, which he is.
Yeah,
it's not, but that's there's just no depth there as far as trading him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and as far as Dillard, okay, so kind of almost there's like a 60-40 chance that he gets traded before the season starts, but I think there's almost at 60 being him not getting traded. But if he's not traded then, I think there's like a 70-30 him getting traded like around the draft. And the reason I say that is because I think they want the depth there. There's still a very slim, which I don't see it, but a very slim chance that he may have a chance to beat out Mayalata, which I doubt. But kind of almost like the Zach Ertz thing or whatever. There's a chance that somebody could get hurt, training camp, whatever, and the team needs a left tackle.
Here's the thing with Andre Dillard that's kind of interesting to me. I've seen multiple articles that, including from ESPN, calling him the surprise standout of camp. And he might be, but for those to be written like that, that smells like the GM is trying to drum up some interest, because I don't see how you could have Mayalata play the way he played and you start Dillard, unless if Dillard just looks so much better than him in 3 preseason games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he's not. And that's what I'm saying, but they want the depth. But they kind of have the depth at the same time. It's kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I still would feel more safer with Jalen Hurts. God forbid if Mayalata went down for a game or two with
Dillard and Toth or
Pryor. Or Pryor. Yeah, because Toast not even. I don't even think Toast on the camp roster.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, but Pryor or I know the kid we drafted last year looked great at right tackle, but switching them from left to right and all that. I mean,
Driscoll. Yeah, Driscoll's a right tackle.
Right. Speaking of kind of people, first year, second year players, a lot of hype for Devonta Smith. Merle Reese has come out and said that, he has done things. Granted, it's only practice, and Merle Reese kind of tempered it, but he said it's the first time I've seen an Eagles receiver in a long time where watching practices, my jaws drop.
Yeah.
And Isaac Bruce, Hall of Famer Isaac Bruce, came out and said he's almost like a clone of Marvin Harrison.
Somebody else a couple other Eagles insiders, not Eagles insiders, I'm sorry, NFL insiders, I apologize, have made that comparison before, but now it's almost picking up steam to almost like a Diggs. So if he plays like Stephon Diggs,
Yeah, or Marvin Harrison, I'm fine with that.
or Marvin Harrison, yeah,
Right, right. You know,
play like either one. I'm good.
We just want him to play better than Hightower. Like, you know, obviously he better be way better than Hightower. No, nothing against John Hightower, but you weren't
Yeah.
a first round pick. The interested that and we've talked about this in the show, but it's nice to see national and local talking about it. All this hype about Devonta Smith, and you're seeing more articles about the hype for Devonta Smith. They don't think is going to lead to Devonta Smith being Rookie of the Year, but they think it's going to lead to the other Jalen on the team doing amazing things and might be a Pro Bowl alternate, not a Pro Bowler, but so.
I just think the more I listen to Sirianni, anybody that really knows me, I know on social media and shit, I drunk tweet or drunk post and stuff like that, and I say goofy shit. But anybody that really knows me and talks to me knows I'm a huge X's and O's person. I will spend 12 hours just deciphering whatever.
If you've watched this show at all during the season, you can tell that.
but I think one of the things that Sirianni like that will get the job is because a lot of people talk about X, Y, and Z and receivers and stuff like that. And from my understanding, and other people that have worked with him say he doesn't have an X, Y, Z. He actually does it inside out. He calls it inside out. The thing is there's not no, hey, this is our outside receivers, this is our inside receiver. No, it's like you may have one play where it's Rieger and Devontae and Ward, but then on inside, and then the next play it's Devontae in the slot and Rieger and you know what I mean, Quez Watkins. You know what I'm saying? Like you just consistently moves things around. It's all about matchups, and that's.
Well, I think
that's where Rieger's going to really benefit from.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think the big thing though is that we see a lot more athleticism on this roster. We brought that up before, so I want to ask you. As of right now, granted it's early, 2021 or 2020, which had the better roster?
I want to say currently on paper, 2021.
Which is crazy because beyond Devonta Smith, there wasn't really any like splashy moves, but I think Anthony Harrison was huge.
I mean, look at the receiving core now. I feel more comfortable and excited about this receiving core than I did last year.
You mean you weren't excited about J-Jaw?
I forgot he was there. Never mind. No, just kidding. But you know what I mean? If you look it up, like the defensive line pretty much is the same. I think we're better at linebacker. We're a little
could have been much worse at linebacker.
Right. But I think last year on paper, the corners were better, but safeties are the same. I think we're a little better at safety. Offensive line is the same, but we're better at depth this year. If you go, and this is not pre-2020, if you go quarterback to quarterback, you would have went there.
By far, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And then running back is the same. And then tight end, pretty much the same. So you just with the receiving core and the linebacker position being so much better and the offensive line being deeper, this roster is better.
I think this roster is going to end up being head and shoulders better than the previous roster once you see it play out. I don't know how many wins that's going to lead that to. I just feel like this is going to be a fun team, man. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch, both on offense and defense.
Fun and frustrating because you're going to, see a lot of little things.
Yeah, fun and young means you're fun and frustrating. Yes.
Yes.
So one final thing that I kind of want to bring up just about before we get to the 5-pack of questions here, which actually is going to be a 6-pack because there's one other thing I wanted to ask you too.
Okay.
with the Philadelphia Eagles looking like that they might be, I can't believe I'm saying this considering where we were 4 months ago. The team with the most positivity around them. Who would have thunk it? Of the 4 sports teams in Philadelphia, who do you think is the closest to winning a championship?
Sixers.
Sixers still?
Still. Absolutely. Sixers, absolutely. I mean, one of two things happens, right? You could either trade Ben Simmons for at least a half decent point guard, or he actually listens to his coaches and he actually develops an 8-foot jumper. So if he develops an 8-foot jumper, they're golden.
Man, well, my problem is that and I don't want to get into basketball talk. He could develop a 3-point shot, a 20-foot jumper, a 15-foot jumper. If he's not going to take it in the playoffs, who cares?
No, but what I'm saying is an 8-foot jumper that he'll shoot. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that whole thing, like Sixers, are, you know.
I have never. I don't think I've ever remembered a Philadelphia athlete shrivel in the playoffs the way he does, and he has done it 3 out of the 4 years. In the 4th years, he didn't play. It reminds me really of like the only comparison I could give it, and maybe it's a little unfair, would be Jay Cutler, because Jay Cutler did have talent, but it seemed like when the going got tough, Cutler just gave up.
Yeah, he's a fucking.
Yeah. But I'm getting to 5-pack questions here. So, are you familiar with who Les Bowen is?
Yes.
Okay, Les Bowen has been, for people that don't know, a Philadelphia writer for 40 years. The past 20 years, been covering the Eagles. Apparently, due to budget cuts, he was going to retire at the end of the season. He's retiring now because they pretty much told him, if you retire now, we'll pay you what you would have made if you worked anyway. It doesn't have to be Philadelphia, but do you have a favorite sports reporter? It could be a writer, an anchor, ESPN, local, whatever.
I would probably say Stuart Scott was probably my favorite. I still say cooler than the other side
Out
of the pillow.
Yeah. Stuart Scott was one of those guys that made like a profession like being a news anchor, which is, pretty geeky, cool.
Right.
I am also a fan of Scott Van Pelt too. I like what he did with the Midnight Sports Center.
Right.
I think that's pretty dope. And me being a gambling guy, bad bet stuff is hilarious to me.
And oh God, I can't believe I forgot his name. He's a legend in Philly Eyewitness News. White hair. He's looked the same.
Jim Gardner.
Jim Gardner. Yes, Jim Gardner. There you go, brother.
I mean, he doesn't do sports. I mean, the last sports report he did was Villanova winning the '85 championship. But to give you an idea, Jim Gardner has been like the lead anchor for ABC since before my parents met, before AJ was born. Like, he's been there.
Yeah, I always remember Jim Gardner. And all right, so I misunderstood. I thought you just said overall.
No, but that's good. It's always good to shout out Jim Gardner.
So if you want to do sports, and nationally, the Stuart Scott was probably my favorite. Locally, Gary Papa. God rest his soul.
Yeah, Gary Papa, which his son is the commentator, I think, for the Jets. Bob Papa.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a big fan locally of John Clark as well, for the most part. Every once in a while, he has an article that pisses me off, but
right. You didn't pick Stephen A. Smith when he.
Jesus. I'm so ashamed. You know what's funny? I want to say this about. There's a lot of reporters who are in this realm now. Stephen A. Smith at one time wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote during the 90s and 2000s. Like, he pretty much covered the tail end of Barkley to midway through Iverson before he got picked up by almost at 7-Eleven. Sports Center.
Right.
I was working at 7-Eleven when I was leaving.
The interview that broke him was when he said, I think is when he had that one-on-one with AI, right? Was it right before he got traded or right after he got traded?
Right before.
Right before, yeah.
I used to really enjoy reading Stephen A. Smith. So to see what he has become, and granted, and a lot of these dudes just do it for the money, but it's just sad. It's not even frustrating. It's just sad, man. I know this is going to sound harsh, but it's like seeing Patrick Ewing on the Sonics. Like, what the hell are you doing, man?
Right.
The Philadelphia Eagle you're most excited to see in training camp, not in the season, but for training camp.
Oh, it has to be the quarterback. Has to be. Jalen Hurts.
I would say I don't know. I feel more solid about Jalen Hurts than I do the guy I'm most excited to see, and to make sure that he can win that spot. And I hope that he is in the rotation at the very least when they do 3 safety is Kayvon Wallace.
Yeah, Kayvon. You know what? I am actually. So we're going to do our pre-early 53-man offense roster. Next week, we're going to record.
Not just early, but pre-early. The early.
Pre-early. Pre-early, So or too early, however you want to say, right?
Way too early 53-man.
Way too early 53. So, but like what you said, there's some battles, but I really want to see the running back battle after Miles Sanders. You got Miles. We're going to take Miles, set him over there. The Kerryon Johnson.
Stop for a second.
Stop
for a second, because I want to see if one goes into the other. My third question to you is a veteran Eagle that you think might be a surprise cut.
Ooh.
Because to me, I think the veteran Eagle that we wouldn't necessarily think would get cut, but I think has a good chance of getting cut depending on how he comes into camp is Jordan Howard.
Well, supposedly, from all reports, I know they didn't do 7-on-7 or 11-on-11s. They did a bunch of drills. He came in a lot later this year, and he looked a lot more impressive than Kerryon Johnson did in that little thing. So,
I mean, Nate Brown looked great in practice all the time too. So we'll see.
No, I'm just saying.
But right.
It's all we have to go on right now. So,
and I'm excluding Zach Ertz from this. I don't think that would be a surprise cut if that's way.
Yeah, no. Would Boston Scott be considered
I would say so. We got a really young squad, so
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to see any of the guys, the veteran guys on this team, the Brandon Grahams, the Fletcher Cox. I know we just signed Kerrigan. Like, they're not going to get cut.
No,
you're not going to see Rodney McLeod get cut. You're not, so I think Boston Scott would be probably the most veteran Eagle that would have a shot of getting cut. So I think that's good.
Right.
So follow me on this question. This is question 4. We'll kind of move through them quick. I am wearing a TO jersey, okay, number 81, which I am proud to wear. But TO, when you think of him, is nationally, he's not considered an Eagle. Name a Philadelphia Eagles player whose jersey you'd be proud to wear, but he's not. When you think of his career, you wouldn't think of him as an Eagle. And there's a couple good candidates. So,
Chris Carter.
Wow, I didn't think you'd go that far back.
Yeah,
Chris Carter. Okay. You would no Art Monk for the 1 year he was here.
No, he didn't make no impact.
No, Jim McMahon.
No, Jim McMahon was here for a couple years, but he's not considered. But I like Jim McMahon when he's here.
I was thinking more of the Chris Long or Darren Sproles variety.
I got one for you. Bubby Brister, baby.
Bubby Brister. Bubby Brister. Bless his heart, man. It wasn't necessarily he was bad. He just wasn't that good. Like, it just. Man.
He was an average second string quarterback that thought he was like John Elway.
Right. It's like, I know you started from Pittsburgh, but no.
Yeah.
Bubby Brister, man. I'll give you another one too, whose jersey I actually own. That I wouldn't say necessarily. I have it because it's kind of interesting. I don't know necessarily if you put pride behind it, but Ricky Waters. Because he played great for us, and he's just defined by who for what. When I think of Ricky Waters, I think of him as a Niner.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give you one more that the original Thunder and Lightning, the Lightning of that pair with Ricky Waters, Charlie Gardner.
I always think of Charlie Gardner as an Eagle. I never think of him as a Raider.
I think of him as Raider.
Even though he played for the Raiders a lot longer.
Right. Made Pro Bowls with the Raiders, everything.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I mean, maybe it's just because of my childhood, with the Niners and everything like that. But yeah, it was just interesting. I was looking through my jerseys and I was like, I wonder, who else would fall into kind of the TL realm of, guys who, when you think of them, they're really part of another team, but I kind of want to stick with Philly. The fifth question. The number one NFL game you're looking forward to seeing that does not involve the Eagles?
I really haven't really studied the. You know what? I think it's either week 2 or week 3. Don't remember, but it's week 2 or week 3. Kansas City, Baltimore.
I'm more excited about Kansas City, Baltimore than I am like Patriots, Bucks. I know a lot of people are saying that. I think Patriots, Bucks, I kind of just want to see the reaction that the Boston fans are going to have for Tom Brady. That's about it.
Right.
They kind of the appreciation and, the thank you, Tom type deal. Because the guy is the greatest of all time. Guys win 7 Super Bowls. I mean, another one that I think that might be interesting too is I believe the Chargers play the Dolphins, and I kind of would like to see Tua against Justin Herbert, just on a fun factor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on which Tua you get. I mean, he was really consistent. So
I will say both Cardinals Seahawks games last year were a lot of
fun. It seems like I'm hopping on the Baltimore bandwagon, but Baltimore, Cleveland as well.
Yeah, Cleveland's going to be fun to watch too, and I think Baltimore, Cleveland's going to become a nice
Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
Right.
I mean, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Sorry, Pittsburgh, Baltimore.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore. I don't think. I just feel like Pittsburgh's going to be a 6-11 team this year, man.
No. What I was saying is.
That's the kind of rivalry it's going to become.
They'll be the new Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and it's always funny because listen, I as everybody knows, I work in Ravens country, but it's funny because whenever you can't ever have a rivalry. I think there was but every time a team steps up in that division and they have a couple years of rivalries, everybody mainly looks at it as Baltimore, Pittsburgh. But there was a few years where it was Baltimore, Cincinnati. When Cincinnati and them were going at it. And I think Cincinnati, even though they were all like physical games, Cincinnati like beat Baltimore like 4 straight years. Like, you know what I mean? And now the upcoming team, but it always seems like it's never like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Cleveland. It's always Baltimore v somebody else. Baltimore, you know what I mean? It's just kind of crazy.
Right. Well, yeah. You know what it is? Baltimore, I think, of all the teams in the NFL, has been the team that's held on to Smash Mouth over the past 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
More than anyone.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that wears on people. I will say, I don't know if they play each other. I don't know the schedule. But if Baltimore and Tennessee play each other in the regular season, that's going to be fun too. They seem like 2 teams that genuinely just don't like each other.
Nah. Well, that's because they share the division. You know what I mean? For so many years.
Right.
I do know Baltimore plays Indy, so I don't know if that's just because of the divisional thing.
It might just be where they finished.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Official, or they play that division. So I don't know off the top of my head right
now. Interesting. None of us really mentioned anything in the NFC. It seems like all the fun's going to be in the AFC this year for the most part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Arizona, I think is going to be a fun team to see. And, you're going to have some stuff going on. But, I don't think the NFC East beyond the Eagles is going to be really a fun watch. You don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the Packers or not. So you don't really know what's going on with the NFC North. I mean, really, all the NFC North is about is the Justin watch for when Justin Fields is going to be the starter for the Bears.
Right.
I mean, I guess seeing Tom Brady at like 46 years old still playing, maybe.
I
If you're into
mean,
that,
I think there's going to be a little bit of eyes on Stafford with McVay. There's going to be some intrigue there to see how
sure.
Stafford does with McVay.
I think though that's a secondary plot line to me. Like that's there with like how's
Right.
Zach Wilson going to do with the Jets?
Right. Right.
You know.
Right. Right.
And my final question for you. I see you're wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So the original trilogy, episode 4, 5, and 6, all were technically summertime releases. They all came out around Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
What in your lifetime would be like your favorite summer blockbuster that came out?
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever categorized because you always have like the summer blockbuster. So you always got like the original Batman
Right. And it seems like
with
more
Michael Keaton.
recently you see a lot more people waiting until Christmas time as opposed to that summer blockbuster.
Yeah, because going to the movies on Christmas is kind of like a tradition now. So
Right.
um yeah, like I mean you had the Men in Black films, you had the Independence Day, I mean
Right.
there's so many, you know what I mean? But I mean if I actually had to just break down and do one just because of the impact that like how the popularity of it for the time, I would probably have to say the Keaton Batman, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson Batman when it came out that summer.
Michael Keaton Batman is a really, really good one. I'm actually kind of looking up a list. I know if you go into that, if you're staying in the 80s, granted, this was before me, I was one, but like Top Gun in the 90s
Yeah,
with Speed, obviously Avengers Endgame,
yeah.
you know. Um, I
But
would
like when I
say,
think of summer blockbusters, I think midsummer because like the Avengers movies, a lot of them came out like around May.
right. I'll tell you one that I wasn't old enough to see, and it was actually jogged my memory. I remember there being a lot of hype about it. I was 5 going on 6. And when I finally did get I got a chance to see it on like VHS like the next year because, our parents, R-rated, you can watch it, whatever. It's Terminator 2.
I actually watched that in school. Like our teacher let us watch that in school.
What?
Yeah,
Wait,
like
what?
elementary school. Yeah. Miss Coleman, I'll never forget her. She was cool lady. She let us watch it. And I remember her telling us like if like you better not tell your parents, but I had already seen it. Listen, because once again, in the 80s and early 90s, we didn't have a lot. One thing we did have, we had cable. It may have been in your name, but
I tell people and this is legit, my credit's been messed up since 89. Comcast is still trying to get me to pay for like WrestleMania 7. But I'll give you one for me personally, just because it was the summer after I graduated. And the reason why I saw it, so I actually wanted to see the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And the
Okay.
movie caught on fire.
Mhm.
And I said, I'll watch Pirates of the Caribbean.
That was a good
And
one.
I wasn't expecting, I was like, Johnny Depp is a pirate, whatever. And listen, I was a teenager about to go to college. All the girls love Johnny Depp. It was like, that's gay, And then I watched it. And I
Yeah.
love the movies. I love all the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah, they're great movies. They're great movies.
By the way, random fun fact. Die Hard apparently came out on July 15th, even though it was a Christmas movie. Go figure.
Right. I didn't know. I mean, damn. I mean, it came out early. Like all that shit. Like I've seen a lot of stuff. A lot of times I'll tell people like, "Oh yeah, I saw that in the movies," and they're like, "How the hell did you see that in the movies? You were like 5. Or, how the hell did you see it in the movie?" Our grandfather worked part-time on the weekends in the movie theater. So on Saturdays, our grandmother would take me and she would have her bag and she would stuff it full of candy. And we literally would be at the movie theater from open till close. And we would just move from theater to theater and watch movies all day.
I'll
And
give
that's
you
the God's honest truth.
now. See, I was a little too young to experience that, unfortunately. So that would have been a lot of fun.
Right,
I'll
right.
tell you.
Real quick. Funny story happened.
I think I know what story you're going to tell. Please tell it.
A little kid, right? My grandmother heard about this movie about some teenagers, and she thought, I guess, it was going to kind of be like Grease without the musical. People may have heard it was called Porky's, and my grandmother takes me in to see this movie, and like I said, I'm yay big. Like I don't know. I may have been. I don't remember the year, but I know I was between the ages of like 4 to 6. And yeah, and we walked out and she was so pissed off.
I remember speaking of being yay high, and you and our cousin, I forget what you told our mother what you were going to take me to see. But you took me to see Bebe's Kids.
Oh shit.
So I remember you wanted to see, I remember it was 2 things. I was told not to say what movie we were watching and not to tell on the fact that you were smoking.
What was I smoking?
You were smoking Newports. You weren't smoking? Yeah. So interesting thing here, but 2 movies so one as a kid, I do remember this. I remember actually our grandmother taking me to go see it, The Lion King.
Okay.
And I remember as an adult and the hype for it. And I think I kind of forgot because of the drama that was around it. Unfortunately, it happened in Aurora. But The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah. That was, yeah.
By the way, what's that?
I remember going to see grandma taking us in the summertime, and we went all the way out to like Franklin Mills, and I remember we had to take like 2 buses. I forget what it's called now, Philadelphia Mills.
Right.
But back then it was called Franklin Mills, and to go see Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy. Yeah. Which, by the way, if I suggest, if you're bored one night, anybody out there, including yourself, give it a watch. It's actually, I won't say necessarily it's aged well, but it's not as bad as you would think. It's actually quite enjoyable.
No, especially for the time. Yeah, especially for the time. It's not that bad. Yeah.
By the way, top 5 blockbusters according to Den of Geek for the summertime. Number 5, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Jurassic Park, 1993. Number 3, Back to the Future, which came out a week before I was born. Number 2, Jaws, which was before you were born.
Right.
75.
75. 75, really? Wow.
And then number 1, the original Star Wars.
Okay. Which the original came out the year I was born, 77.
Yeah, May 27th, 1977.
Mm-hmm.
So
5 months old.
Yeah, and then Star Wars 2 is up here, Dark Knight, both Alien and Aliens, Ghostbusters came out June 8th, 84. Interesting thing here. A lot of 80s movies, it seems like, that were in the summer blockbusters. Said you don't see too many. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is on this list. Of course, Indiana Jones. But I say that because the 90s made a point to have summer blockbuster movies. So to not see Men in Black or Bad Boys or anything like that on here is kind of interesting. Because
I remember as a kid, like I remember the 80s, there really wasn't. Now 90s there really wasn't either, but it was a little bit more in the 90s. Bootleg stuff like that was more prevalent in the 90s. But I remember like when a movie came out, for like weeks, lines around movie theaters. You know what I mean? So maybe that's probably why.
Well, just like, E.T. came out during the summertime as well, which is on this list.
But I remember E.T. getting released like every couple of years.
Right. And the thing with E.T., if you remember, when E.T. got released, the Atari game, which is considered to be one of the worst games ever created, had to be released by Christmas before the movie left the movie theater. The movie got released in July and was still running strong 6 months later.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because they used to do that with a lot of the summer block. They would re-release them, like Star Wars. That's how I saw the original Star Wars in the movie theater. Like they would do those things. They would re-release them.
Well, I think it's cool now. Like nowadays, if you go to a movie theater, they always have one movie that is a lot older that they're showing. So when I say that, like the local theater near me is showing Raiders of the Lost Ark on one screen.
Oh wow.
But I think that's cool that they do that. I actually might ask you one more question about movies because I see one on this list. So I actually was a big fan of the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Mm-hmm.
When I say obviously it wasn't the original, but it was the kind of right before Marvel really got into their movie making. Which, of course, if I try to watch it now, it's a little painful.
Right.
But at the time, I mean, I was a junior in high school. I remember, I specifically remember taking my SATs. I remember there was a Sixers playoff game against the Celtics, and I remember watching that. Like all of us, Can you name a movie that you really enjoyed when you were younger that if you try to watch now, you're like, it hasn't aged well at all?
That's a whole lot of them.
And I would say stick with like something that's like really popular. And like for that Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, I know a lot of people who like that movie that will not admit it now. And it's like it's okay to say that you liked it, and every Spider-Man after that has blown it away.
Yeah, because even Spider-Man 2 was, and Spider-Man 3 was just trash even back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you, man. It probably, if I had to like, yeah, probably Spider-Man. That Spider-Man, like I go back and I'm like, I got one. And it's probably one of the worst things you'll ever watch. But I remember it was a lot of hype when it came out. And I remember as a little kid, I really enjoyed it, saw it in the movie theaters. A lot of people did. Dolph Lundgren's He-Man.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to go with Transformers.
The cartoon?
Yeah, that you saw in the theater.
That's still a classic. What are you talking about? That's tripping. That's still that shit.
That facial expression was great.
I'm still mad at Hot Rod over that shit, but whatever.
You know what movie I've been told by most people they don't like, and I still like it to this day. Speaking of those type of movies, it starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, and now I can't think of the name of the damn movie.
Kindergarten Cop?
What's that? No, Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, that was.
I still enjoy
I really wasn't a
it.
big fan of it.
I still enjoy it. I still enjoy James Earl Jones telling people to crucify him on the tree of woe. I still love it, and anyone I talk to about it is like, how can you watch this?
Yeah, I didn't even like it back then. Grace Jones creeped me out. Yeah. There was another one, and I completely. Yeah, I'm just going to. Yeah, I remember watching that. I was like, oh shit, He-Man's on. So let me check this out, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't believe I watched this shit. No, it's horrible.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, like, I'll tell you, like, for example, I like the Ninja Turtles movie from the early 90s, which the first one, which obviously hasn't aged well, but for nostalgic value, it still makes me smile to see it just because I was such a kid when it came out. Now, Return of the Ooze, we're not doing that, but like the Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, maybe I get to the point where Uncle Ben gets shot. Spoiler alert for some reason if you don't know the story. But like that's about it. I can't get much further than that because I'm like, I would rather watch the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man or I forget the actor that plays Spider-Man now. Like it's like they're just so much better.
Yeah, Tom Holland. Yeah,
Tom Holland. Like
Yeah, man, it's a lot of. It's kind of almost like shows, almost right. Like I have a thing to where I binge watch The Sopranos at least once a year. Every year I do it. I've done it since it came on. Since it came on, I used to binge watch. After the first season, I used to binge watch season 1 before I watched season 2. Like so now, every year I binge watch it. But then there's certain shows And I actually find it more enjoyable every time I watch it because there's certain comedy aspects of it I find. But then I try to do the same thing with Oz.
You know what? I wasn't a big
Don't
now.
do
Granted,
that.
I was a little too young when Oz came out. I was in middle school, so trying to watch Oz as a middle school student, like I couldn't even understand half the stuff that was really going on because a lot of stuff with Oz to really get it was a lot of the mental aspect too. It wasn't just
Yeah, it's you watch it, man. The acting was not that great. Even
no.
like I went back and watched it. It was bad. Like you could go back and rewatch The Wire. It's still a good show. Like
You
you
know
know what I
what
mean?
show is like that? There was only on for one season. I remember ESPN actually did it. And when ESPN was trying to get a partnership with the NFL, the NFL stopped it. It was a show called Playmakers.
I know you're talking about. Yeah.
And it was an excellent show when I watched it. Watching it now, I mean, the concepts and stuff, because it was obvious. They had one guy that they were talking about, and it was obvious they were talking about Michael Vick, and another guy that. But watching it now, you're like, yeah, the acting wasn't that good at all.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah, at the same time, I mean, I would still watch it, but it's just like, yeah.
Right.
But that's our show. I will say this, man. Thank God, a lot of stuff is opening up all over the country. I know Pennsylvania is dropping all restrictions as of Monday coming up, which is great. So get out there and do some stuff, man. Movie theaters are opening up. You know what I mean? If you feel like, even just for nostalgic value, go out to a movie or go through a drive-through or go to one of those, the diner movies that they have now where, you can. I've been to one, by the way, and where they had like the boozy root beers, which I know your wife hates, but like they had like really like real alcoholic drinks and big ass burgers and got
Oh wow.
got drunk as hell watching a Denzel movie. It was great. And actually, it was the worst Denzel movie I ever saw in my life. It's the only Denzel movie that I've ever saw where he was bad. He played like a lawyer. He actually
Not
directed it.
Philadelphia.
What's that?
Not
No.
Philadelphia.
This came out like a couple years ago. It's you guys will know what I'm talking about. He plays a lawyer that kind of like works with NAACP, and he has an opportunity because he works with NAACP, but he's also a public defender. So he's supposed to be publicly defending this criminal who shot a guy. He knows he's guilty, and the guy that he shot, his family is giving him like a $50,000 reward. And Denzel, even though he's a public defender, is living in the shittiest of apartments in LA. So he turns him in to get the reward. Well, the guy figures out that he turned him in and basically lets him know, like, I'm not gonna tell you when it's happening, but you're a dead man. I hope it was worth it. And the movie kind of goes along that. It's Denzel plays this nerdy dude who's always done everything right. He's far from anything where the women thought he was attractive or being cool. I mean, it's, but there's also, and there's some moments that are like, huh, but it was just a bad movie. Like alcohol helped me get through that.
So no, my nigga.
No.
No King Kong. Ain't got nothing on me.
The most memorable parts, I remember he was in the classroom and some of the people were standing up. And he asked the dudes, he was like, oh, young brothers, why don't you get up for the sisters? Your sisters are standing. And the girl flipped out on him and was like, oh, so I need a man to stand up for me? I just can't stand for myself. You know what? Fuck you. And they escorted Denzel out and like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like it was a bad movie. I'll just put it like that. Yeah. It was something Esquire. I forget what it was, but it was the fact that I guarantee you anyone who watches this has no idea what I'm talking about, and you'll Google it and be like,
yeah, I never heard of it.
Yeah. Of all the Denzel movies, why would you bring that up? By the way, make Equalizer 3 and don't make it with Queen Latifah. That show is awful. That's just my 2 cents. Are you a fan of the Equalizer movies?
No.
Really?
Oh, you talking about the Denzel?
Denzel, yes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
1
and 2 was hard as shit. 1 and 2 was hard as shit. It was bad. Hell yeah.
My man with Denzel came out with the nail gun. What? In 1?
Oh my God, yo, he the black John Wick. Nigga.
Right. No, John Wick is the white Denzel. But all right, that's our show. Like I said, man, get out, try to do something this week. We're gonna be doing more talk about the birds. I know we've been slacking a little bit on the Facebook. You can find with the Facebook, but Workout songs. I've been slacking because I've only done 2 workouts this week. That's my bad. I need to get myself together. So my bad.
I missed today, but I've been posting every day. So since Sunday, so
You'll know who posted what. AJ stuff is usually really hard rock and stuff.
or classic rock or
Right. When you see, workout song, wifey remix, that's me. That's But all right, y'all. Listen, have a good week. We'll talk to you next week. Anything else you want to add? All right, y'all. Peace out.
Peace.